Hello everyone. In this section we are going to learn about the declaration and definition of variables. Let me repeat. We are going to learn the declaration and definition of variables and not the functions. With respect to functions, I understand that you will be aware what do you mean by declaration and what do you mean by definition. Declaration of a function is also called as function prototyping, which tells the return type, name of the function, parameter types. It does not have a body. Function definition has the body. Whereas with respect to variables, many people have a doubt, what exactly do you mean by declaration definition? In fact, we have a doubt, do we have something called as a declaration and a definition of a variable? Right? What do you think? Do we really have something called as declaration of a variable separately and a definition of a variable separately? Then what is a declaration? What is a definition? When do you how do we declare a variable? How do we define a variable? Right? So there are a lot of question marks here, so we'll try to understand. Right? Since we are basically talking about declaration definition, so from this itself you might have got a hint telling that yes, there should be something called as declaration and definition of a variable also, but you just need to know what exactly do you mean by declaration and what is the definition. Right? Now declaration basically specifies the name of variable, or you can say any identifier, okay, and the type. Right? So declaration specifies the name of the variable and the type of the variable. It does not reserve the memory. The definition of the variable basically talks about the memory allocation. Okay, while allocating memory, we'll also look into where exactly the memory gets allocated, stack segment, data segment, and all those things. So the main allocation of the memory for the variable is called as definition, and then the declaration only specifies the name of the variable and the type. Okay, so to avoid any kind of confusion and ambiguity, I'm just trying to show you Dennis Ritchie's book. What does Dennis Ritchie talk about it? If you go to Dennis Ritchie's book, in the first chapter, just before the exercises, right? Okay, in the first chapter, you can just look into it. He says that definition refers to the place where the variable is created or assigned storage, meaning memory gets allocated for that. Declaration refers to the place where the nature of the variable is stated, but no storage is allocated. Right? Remember, it's talking about variable. Okay, so I hope now at least you trust. Remember, this is from Dennis Ritchie's book, first chapter. Almost at the end of the first chapter you can read that. Right? Now let us try to understand, how do we declare a variable? How do we define a variable? Now if I just write a variable int x, what do you think? It is a declaration or it's a definition? Okay, this is a declaration. This is declaration plus definition, both. Okay, I think you might have a doubt here. Oh, this is a declaration definition, then how do we declare? We'll come to that. Right? And if I say int y equal to 5, this is also declaration plus definition. Okay, because sometimes we do have a confusion telling that okay, only when you initialize it, it is a definition, otherwise it's not a definition. No, this is also a definition, this is also a definition. Right? Okay, so let me just comment this message and let me try to print this information. Let us say I would just like to say x equal to %d. Now if I try to print the value of x, what will it print? Did I assign some value for that? No. So the value of x will be some garbage value. Now with respect to y, it will be the value whatever you have assigned. Right? Okay, so we can quickly run this. Okay, the file name what I've written is declaration and definition, and I can run this. The X value could be any garbage because this is a local variable, right? And for the local variables, or we also call it as the internal variables, there is a small difference between a local variable and an internal variable, right? Okay, we'll look at that also. Fine. This can be any garbage value. Yeah, we got it as 0, but I cannot guarantee that every time it will be 0. Now same way, let us say I would like to compile. Okay, before this, let me try to say I want to print the value for Z. Where is Z here? Z is not here. I'm trying to directly use it here, right? Let me save this, come here, and I'd like to compile your program. What is the error you found here? Z undeclared. What did it say? Z undeclared. Remember, this is a compilation error. So if you want, you can just try to compile with -c option, which will stop immediately after compiling. So this is basically a compilation error. It says Z is undeclared, right? Okay. But for X and Y, it was declaration and definition. So let us try to understand how do we only declare. Okay, quite simple. Let me just try to write int z, but this becomes a declaration definition, right? So just use extern. Just use extern. Now I'll try to compile this. Any errors? No, because the compiler looks out for declaration and the declaration of Z is available. Now next I would like to link it. I'm not using -c, so it performs the compilation stage as well as performs the linking stage. During the linking stage, what did I get? Undefined reference to Z. I never got it as undeclared. I got the error as undefined. Okay, from this what we learned is when you use an extern for a variable, it is only a declaration. It is not a definition. For other internal variables, or you can say automatic variables, are the other automatic variables here, right? So when you write this, okay, either you initialize or you don't initialize, it is a declaration as well as a definition, right? So this is more about the basic things, and yes, we have worked only with local variables. Now let us try to look into a global variable. This is my global variables. I want to start with this, right? So I'm just trying to, yeah, I think we will remove this. I'll keep it down. If required, we will reuse it, and then let me try to comment this. Okay. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to work with some global variable. Okay, or if you want, you can even remove this and keep it here. Okay, because we'll be requiring this to again compare with global, local, and all those things, right? So I just used this, right? Okay. Now, what about this? This is only a declaration or it is a definition. Remember, if it gives me a error called as undeclared, meaning it's not even a declaration. If it does not give an error like undeclared, it okay, means at least it is a declaration for sure. And if I run the program, and if it does not give me an error telling that undefined reference to G, then it means this statement is a declaration as well as a definition. Remember, if it gives me undefined as an error, then it means it's only a declaration. But if it does not give me that undefined and then it executes and gives me some value, it means it is a declaration as well as a definition. What do you think? Right? Let's quickly verify this, and then let us try to understand what is this. Did I get any kind of compilation error or linker error? No. This one is declaration. Yes, it was also a definition, right? Okay. Now there is a little bit of catch out here for such kind of statements, specifically in C language, right? I'll come back to that. Now, I'm just going back to this local variable int x. Can I create two variables with the same name in the same scope? What do you think? Can I? Okay, fine. Let's verify this. I've created two local variables by name x. right? Remember, this is a compilation error, not even a linker. Before the linking, what does it say? Redeclaration of X, right? Okay, so there is a problem here. We cannot have two variables the same name if they're automatic. If they are automatic variables, automatic in the sense the local variables which are non-static, they're called as automatic variables. Okay, fine. I would like to comment this. The same thing I would like to do it with global variable. Name can be anything. Okay, I'm just use G for global. Now what do you think? We should also throw an error. Okay, fine. Let me try to compile this, and then no compilation error. Let me try to link this. No linker error. Oh, there is some difference between you wrote this int x here and int g and int g here. There is a difference here. Okay, fine. Now I'd like to assign some value here, right? What do you think will be the output here? Will, okay, see, for one of it I've assigned a value, for one of it I have not assigned the value, right? So will it be 0, will it be 5, or will it be an error? Fine, let's verify. Okay, fine. Now let me try to compile this. No compilation error, good. Link, no error, very good, right? So let us try to see the output. Is it 5 or is it 0? What do you think? Okay, fine, let's see the output. It's 5, right? Now let's go back here and then try to assign something like, okay, another value for this. Now what do you think will be the output? 5 or 10? Because first we assigned 5, then we assigned 10. Will it take up the last assigned value, or will it take up the first assigned value? This is what the confusion you might be having, right? Okay, fine. Let's go back and verify it once more. See here. Oh, redefinition. Fine. Little bit of problem here. Why there was no such problem when I write int g both? Okay, or when I assign the value only for one time and not both the times, right? Okay, even this information I'd like to tell you with respect to whatever Dennis Ritchie has spoken. Now I'll just going back to Dennis Ritchie. If you go to section A.10.2, the section is called as external declarations. What is it called as? External declarations. Remember, you need to download a copy of Dennis Ritchie, or you need to refer to Dennis Ritchie's book from the library, right? Now in this section, if you can just come down here, there is some information out here. What does it say? It says that an external, the meaning of external here means global. Then external declaration for an object is a definition if it has an initializer. Meaning any global variable for which you are trying to assign a value, it is a definition also. An external object declaration that does not have an initializer, like how I just wrote int g semicolon, and does not contain the extern specifier, right? Same thing as what we did. We just wrote int g semicolon, is a tentative definition. Is a new term. It's called as tentative definition. So we not only have something called as declaration, definition, we also have something called as tentative definition, right? If a definition for an object appears in a translation unit, probably this term might also be new to you guys, translation unit, right? See, when you look into the compilation process, you have the source code. You pass the source code as an input to the preprocessor. The preprocessor does this expanding of macros, inclusion of header files. The result of preprocessing, right, which is actually passed as input to the compiler, that one is actually called as a translation unit, right? So if a definition for an object appears in a translation unit, since we are not using any macros and everything, you can just consider the source file itself here. Any tentative definitions are treated as redundant declaration. Okay, so please remember, if a definition, what do you mean by definition for the global? If it has an initializer, in that case tentative definitions are treated as redundant, repeated declarations. But it also says that if no definition for the object appears in a translation unit, all its tentative definitions become a single definition with an initializer 0. Right? So let me again go back and try to demonstrate. Okay, so let me just go back here. Now if I just write int g semicolon, this is declaration plus tentative definition, right? Okay, but if I say int g equal to 5, this is definition for sure, it's not tentative, right? So in such situation, what happens? This becomes only a declaration. Got it? Remember, we are not using an extern, but still this can become a declaration if there is a definition out here. Got it? So this is only a declaration, then this turns out to be definition. But if I don't provide this, this will act as definition also. Why? Because of this statement. What does it say? If no definition for the object appears, all its tentative definitions become a single definition with initializer 0. Got it? So since we do not have a concrete definition for the global object, all its tentative definitions become a single definition with an initializer 0. I hope till here it is clear. Right, guys? Okay. Fine. So we learned this is a declaration, but is a definition or not depends upon do we have a concrete definition or not. If we have a concrete definition, this turns out to be only a declaration. But if I don't have a concrete definition, then this turns out to be definition. But also remember, if I write int g any number of times, so all these are tentative definitions. So since we do not have any concrete definition, it will treat it as one as definition, others as declaration. Right? Till here it is clear? Fine. So what we should make a note of, any global local variables, there is nothing called as declaration definition separately, I can say, or automatic variables. Okay, if I just write like this, like what I had written here, int x, it was a declaration and a definition. Okay, let me just, this is declaration and definition. Okay, so there is nothing to worry about what is the declaration, what is the definition for the local variables. Right? This is okay. If you only want to declare, we use extern, right? But remember, extern is a declaration wherein the definition has to be present globally, not in this stack memory or automatic variable. It should be referring to some global variable present outside the function, either in the same file or generally when you want to work with multiple files. Right? So for that you can actually look into my other video where we are talking about how to work with multiple files. Right? So don't worry much about the local variables. Okay, if you just write this is a declaration definition, but for the global variables, these things are called as declaration and tentative definition. But if you have a concrete initializer, right, if you have some value like this, then it is a definition, and we can only have one definition for a global variable. We cannot have multiple definitions for even any global variables. Also, we cannot have multiple definitions. That is the reason when I tried to have initializers for more than one, okay, it gave me a problem, right? In fact, when you work with multi-files, there is a difference between how programs behave on some of Turbo C, but you might say Turbo C is quite old, okay, right? They are like the other, some of the cross compilers what I've verified like Keel as well as IAR, and some of the native compiler like GCC, Visual Studio, I have seen a difference. And okay, even that part is also being demonstrated here, which I would not like to stress more on this particular video. You can look into this one. Okay, the behavior of whatever is mentioned here, this I have observed in GCC as well as on your Visual Studio also. This behavior is very similar to what is mentioned here. But with respect to Turbo C or some of the cross compilers like Keel compiler as well as the IAR compiler, I have encountered things like what is being mentioned here, right? Okay, you can just see each object must have exactly one definition also mentioned here. Okay, fine guys. So okay, yeah, so in the next video we'll try to look into static for the global variables, static for the local variables, right? Thank you.